Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am your Ice Dragon Rayron VR, and today we're really going to dig deep into this hobby. We're kind of going to look into kind of the early stages of why this hobby is considered to be a sandbox, and we're going to take a look at layout clubs and organizations. So let's go and start from the beginning here. When it comes to layouts, now me personally, I have kind of when it comes to a model railroading layout, I kind of have two distinct categories. The first category is basically your home personal layout. This is the layout that you are limited by your imagination. If you want to have a simple DC circle, go for it. If you want to have a modular circle, go for it. Do you want to have a floor layout? Go ahead. Endless possibilities when it comes to the home layout. And feel free to do whatever you want to do. Don't let people gatekeep you. Don't let people tell you how to build your own layout. This is where your pure imagination is at your disposal. You got all the tools and the capabilities to do whatever you want when it comes to a home layout. Now, when it comes to a public layout, that's where things get kind of interesting because basically you have a whole bunch of different clubs, you got museums, you've got societies out there that they try to expand the hobby either by having a big enough space to have a much more bigger layout, by either doing operating sessions on a particular layout or just trying to promote the hobby in general. That's what we're going to try to dive into it. So when it comes to layout, obviously when it comes to home layout, you can have your easy track system for DC. You can start with a basic 4x8 sheet of wood and probably use Atlas track. And then when you get a little bit more serious, you can look into going to Walthers, Pico, or whatever brand you wish to go with. But when it comes to those public layouts, there's a wide variety of options. So first, we're going to we're going to briefly look at all the different layouts because I'm going to do some dedicated videos for each one of these. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into it. Now, we're going to first look into modulars because that's something that I'm familiar with. It's what I've been exposed to the most. And so there's different types of standards when it comes to modular layouts because with these standards you're allowed to basically take your little piece of the layout and connect it to another person's piece to make this huge layout that you wouldn't normally be able to do in a typical setting when it comes to home or maybe a small little warehouse. This is where you can go out to high school gyms, go to a huge convention center, and just make the biggest layout you can dream of. Not only that, but also interchange it to the way that the layout changes each and every time that you set it up, which is pretty cool. And so here we're at the NMRA kind of layout here. So they do have set standards when it comes to the NMRA modular. So this is the NMRA standard. So this is the typical ones that you see at train shows where you basically have the main line is off to the side here when it comes to the bench work and you got some sort of background with that. And again, they have their own set standards. So this is the one you typically see. Another one that I'm more heavily involved with. And if you guys watch my podcast, The Icy Railway, I do have a Freemo Minimo layout. And this is basically another standard that's been kind of popular, growing in the West and kind of spreading out. And this standard is basically you have the main line going through the center of the modular. So again, kind of an interesting twist to things. Another one for those of you who go into N scale, you guys are definitely loving N scale modular layouts. Like when it comes to N scale, you guys have a great variety of things. So they do have the Freemo standard, which is basically what they call Freemo N or Fremon. They have N-Track, which is basically the NMRA standard in N scale, which you got it kind of shifted off to the side. But then my most favorite and up and coming modular set that I'm definitely diving into is T-Track. Now I'll give you guys an example of how all of these layouts look here in a second, but T-Track is probably my growing favorite amongst all of the modular standards. So some other things to also think about is permanent layouts. Sometimes you have an organization that'll have a permanent layout to also look at. So several examples I'm just going to run through. SAMRA, you guys see that I'm a part of the SAMRA, San Antonio Model Railroad Association. They have a permanent layout. Now, when you start going into kind of the professional layouts and the professional clubs, this is not necessarily a club, it's more of an organization. This is when you start going into more of the business side when it comes to the hobby. This is where people have certain rules to join a club. You got to pay certain dues for the upkeep of the building. Also, it is technically a corporation. Most of these associations or societies, or even some clubs out there, fall under what's called 501c3, which is basically means you are a non-profit organization when it comes to the law and the business side here in the United States, and those are the things you have to take into consideration. And you may find some rules or what I would call gatekeeping techniques, so that way everyone can enjoy the layout equally. So you'll have to, put metal wheels, have KD couplers, make sure things are weighted correctly, or even error specific depending on what the rules of these organizations are. So that's just something that you're going to have to take consideration when you go into the public sphere of a public layout. So we got SAMRA here, the one I used to be part of, St. Louis Obispo. They were a modular layout here, so you can kind of see there's a small little N scale oval. And let's see if I can find some other pictures here. One thing that I'll go into as well is that N scale also has bend track. So I almost forgot to mention that's another scale that when it comes to N scale, bend track, basically you have the main line on one modular making a loop going back and forth. So this is an example of bend track. Again, you can kind of see the Fremo standard there of this layout, that the rail is in the center. So again, wide variety of different things. We've got the High Desert Model Railroad Club out in California that participates in the NMRA standard when it comes to their modulars. We've also got the Golden Empire Historic and Modeling Society that has a kind of layout out there that I don't know if they can move it, but they do have a layout out there, and it's pretty cool. So again, wide variety of options. Again, the big thing about these clubs and organizations is that you have to do your research. You got to figure out exactly where they're at, because sometimes they may not have a website, and it's basically word of mouth that they exist. And so these are the things you kind of have to think about if you want to join a club. Another thing to also take into consideration is what system they use. They may use EasyDCC. They may use Digitrax. They may run an old school block DC. So again, just do your research. See what you can find, and if you're interested, ask a club member there. Get the works of the layout, get the rules, and you'll be on your way. And that's the great thing about this hobby. So with that, I'll go ahead and give you guys some more examples of the layouts here. Let's see. So there's an example of T-Track. So this comes from the NMRA train show. And this is an example of T-Track. You can see that the community, when it comes to NRail and T-Track, it is awesome, because I'm a fantasy modeler when it comes to model railroading, and this just makes me happy. Like, you've got Big Ben here, you've got Harry Potter right there, and it just goes on and on and on. Here you got basically a train in the sky or train in the clouds. They use a see-through track from Kato to simulate that. It's just so cool. So let's see if we can get some other examples here. Okay, so we got basically, this is more T-Track. Okay, so right here we've got this module right here, which is basically Fremon or Fremo N scale. So you can see that the track is going in the center there. See if we can get you guys some NMRA standards here. Yeah, so this right here, we've got the NMRA standard when it comes to the NMRA standard when it comes to N scale here, which is N-Track is what they use, or they term it to be. Now, what's pretty cool about N-Track is that they've been evolving this kind of standard for a while now. I've seen some clubs actually use the 3-rail method, but then they also put like a 2-rail branch line on the opposite side, kind of mimicking a little bit of bend rail standards, which is pretty cool. Again, it's not official, but it's just, again, a technique. I'm going to see if I can get you guys an example of... So again, we got some more NMRA inspired standards here, with the rail being off to the side there. Let's see here. Let's see if I can get you guys. Trying to find the Z scale here, but yeah, there's a Z scale layout that shows off the bend track system really, really well. Let's see if I can quickly find it here. This was pretty cool because this layout, if you watch this video, I'll leave a link in the description below. NRail did something awesome. They basically took all three standards and attempted to connect all three standards into one massive layout with these mobile modular helixes to go to T-Track, to Fremon, to NRail, which is or N-Track, which is pretty cool. Also, something I didn't even mention is that Lego has their own standards as well. It's kind of unofficial right now. I'm hoping the NMRA gets on board with the Lego gauge, but there's a Wikipedia site that has Lego gauge modulars that you can use to make a massive Lego scale layout, which is becoming much more popular, and it's something that Fairy VR wants to get into a lot. So I'm definitely excited to see where that goes. So right here, so when it comes to bend track standards, it used to be really popular when it came to N scale, but then with the rise of NRail, I've been seeing a lot more NRail standards than bend track. So, but what I have been seeing is Z scale is becoming a much more popular scale in the recent years, and we're starting to see a lot of N scalers use the bend track motto. So you can see that this is basically one modular piece standard there, one piece of wood modular there, and so forth. And then you have it's basically offset like you would see in the NMRA standards, but you get that on both sides. So that way you just use one piece of wood to have the entire elongated layout, and you can see that it just keeps on going. So basically that's one modular piece, basically an N scale or HO, but as far as Z scale, they can use double mainline to go on either side. So again, another option that you can have when it comes to a modular layout. But again, I highly recommend watching this video. This will give you a good understanding if you're on the fence of what scale you want to use, what type of layout you want to build, or what type of public layout you want to join. This video will give you kind of a wide variety of options. And I didn't even talk about O gauge or G scale, Livesteam. There's so much more out there that I'm just not knowledgeable enough to even speak to it. And that's why I'm more biased towards HO and N, because I know I'm more familiar and a little bit more knowledgeable than I am when it comes to even O gauge and all the other scales. And so there's still a lot more out there that I'm hoping that I can just open your eyes. There's so much out there when it comes to this hobby. And one last thing that I kind of want to talk about is the biggest organization when it comes to model railroading, and that is obviously the NMRA, so the National Model Railroad Association. At first, I was a big fan of NMRA, and it took me a while to find a good region for me to participate in. So they've got a lot of regions and divisions when it comes to this organization. This organization, as far as the U.S., you can see here, here's all the different regionals. I'm part of the Lone Star region, but you can see how it's kind of broken up here. Again, I'm not too knowledgeable about overseas, but I'll just keep it to U.S. specific for right now. But anyway, we have the National Train Show, which goes around, tours all sorts of different regions. It was in the Lone Star region, which is why I got all that content for you guys. Next, it's going to go, I believe, it's going to be in I think it's the PSR region, which is going to be Long Beach, California, is going to be the next National Train Show. But the NMRA has so many things to offer. This is where you get all of your achievement programs if you really want to step up your game into the modeling business. This is where you get your Golden Spike, your Master Model Railroader if you really want to pursue that. I'm going to pursue it. It's just going to be a little bit pushed later down the road, but something I'm definitely looking into trying to get into. Like I said, they got the train shows, they got the conventions. Now, the big thing that I adore and love and respect about the NMRA is that they have standards. This is the set standards that the hobby, that the group of community has come together and basically said that this is the standards that we need the manufacturers to follow, because of these standards, it really puts into check the business side of the hobby. You got the manufacturers, the distributors, and so forth. And so, what's cool about this is that they have these set standards that everything must talk to each other, either through like JMRI, how DCC is going to talk to one another. Because the fear is that you don't want one company making their own track, making their own engines that will only work for this particular system. It really puts into check those standards, and us as customers are looking for that. We want our one decoder to work with multiple different bodies of engines. Now, there's been a lot of controversy lately because these manufacturers have found ways of trying to get around the NMRA standards. But again, that's for you guys to decide what you want to do as a consumer from the business side of things. But again, we have all these standards of how how track width should be, how DCC should work. So again, they have all of these standards that is really, really important, and it's like which function should do what and so forth. So I highly recommend that if you're getting into the hobby, always, or I don't want to say always, but look at the NMRA website. They got so many great things, great advice. And I'm proud to be a member, and I'm happy that I found a region that works best for me. Again, I'm fortunate enough to have a group here for the LSR, to have a subdivision in order to do that. Because again, they go by regions, and then they go by division, so you can click on a particular region. So I'm the Lone Star region here, and I would hope that this would go into the subdivisions, but it's not working right now. So, but anyways, look around, because you just never know what you're gonna have. Let me see if I can actually, let's see, Lone Star region. There we go. So this is the breakout of the Lone Star region, and you got all of these divisions. So if you live near a particular area, find the respective division, and I am, I believe, Division 6. So again, this encompasses, all the south of Texas. So yeah, Fredericksburg, New Braunfels, San Antonio, Corpus, and all that. So that's something that you want to look into if you want to become an NMRA member. Again, I'm not here to advertise you should become a member. The NMRA is something that it was a journey for me, and it really took me some convincing to join it. And to be honest, the best thing I got out of the NMRA was the clinics. When I went to the train shows, when I go to my clinics and general meetings for the LSR 6, you just learn so much more, and we get so much out of it. And again, the NMRA is really what it comes down to, is what you want to get out of it. Do you want to get out knowledge from other MMRs? Do you want to go to these train shows? Do you want to see if you want to participate in their special interest groups, which they've got a whole bunch trying to help improve the hobby. I'm going to see if I can find one here. But there's so many different things to do when it comes to the NMRA improper. So I'm probably going to make a much more bigger video on the NMRA, I think, coming up. But yeah, there's so much to do. So with that, guys, I can see this episode is definitely going kind of long, which I knew was going to be a beefy video, because there's just so much to talk about. Again, this is the sandbox portion of the hobby, because there's so many different things to do. There's so many standards out there. There's so many great organizations to do. And really what it comes down to is, what are you interested in? Do you want to go modular? Do you want to, pack up a section of a layout and connect it with another one? Or do you just want to have that simple 4x8 sheet of plywood that'll make you happy forever and ever? So it's just one of those things that I love talking about, this aspect of the hobby, because this is where things get really fun. So I'm excited for this next wave of couple of videos. And with it, guys, thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching. Continue to watch this series on the National Model Railroad month of November for 2023. And with it, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.